The Impact of Early Maternal Invalidation and Emotional Deprivation on Adult Survivors of ACEs, created by Jody M. Givhan, M.Ed., CEO, One Wind Media. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. A mother's joy is to love, nurture, guide, and protect her children. However, unfortunately, not all women are meant to be mothers. Self-esteem is fundamentally shaped during childhood, when a child is actually learning what his worth is, based exclusively on the feedback and mirroring which is provided by his early caregivers. And here's where it gets interesting. When that feedback is consistently critical, harsh, or demeaning, or cruel, the result is often a deeply internalized sense of inadequacy that can and usually does persist well into adulthood. Consistent criticism, whether in the form of abuse, overt negative remarks, constant comparison, or chronic dissatisfaction, sends the message that the child is inherently flawed and unwanted, rather than a normal human being which is simply struggling with a particular behavior. The result: children grow up with a deep sense of inadequacy that can, and usually does, persist well into adulthood. Over time, the child internalizes his experiences with his mom. And the messages become a core belief: I am not good enough. I do not matter. Or, it's my fault my mom is unhappy with me. But actually, when you grow up and begin to face your own issues, and the experiences that have shaped you, you can heal, and over time you will feel better. The truth is, mom was an angry and miserable person inside. It wasn't your fault that she abused you. You did nothing wrong by being born. The truth is, you do matter and you are special. In adulthood, these internalized beliefs often manifest quietly as low self-esteem and chronic self-doubt. Adults who grew up in critical environments may also engage in negative self-talk, repeating the patterns of criticism they once heard as children. They may also struggle with perfectionism, believing that only flawless performance can protect them from judgment. It is possible that they will frequently have difficulties with resolving conflict, taking full responsibility for their own actions, and are typically hypersensitive when someone is trying to have a constructive conversation about the impact of their behavior. They may also avoid risks or new opportunities for fear of failure and anticipated criticism. They may also seek external validation, relying heavily on the approval of others to feel worthy. Because of their innate fear of failure, based on the early interactions with mom, it is not uncommon for him to have many projects going on at once. And although each task is complete, he keeps starting new ones. Children who are abused or criticized by their parents have many anxieties. And they are usually afraid of being alone. The psychological mechanism underlying this process lies in the way children equate parental criticism with their own self-concept. Because children cannot easily separate behavior from identity, repeated negative feedback shapes the very foundation of their self-worth. Even in supportive adult environments, these ingrained beliefs can be difficult to dislodge without the intentional feedback, guidance, and support by a licensed professional clinician. Children thrive on the widest possible community of love, guidance, safety, and nurturing. When mothers are cruel and deprive their children of at least these things, the children always pay the price. Fear can be a very difficult feeling to overcome. Many adults who have experienced abuse by their mothers feel deeply unwanted and undeserving of peace, happiness, and mostly love. But all children deserve to be loved. Adult survivors of these type of anxious maternal attachments can improve and feel more self-acceptance and love over time. But healing, like peace, is intentional. Both will require recognition and reparenting. Welcome to a new you. Therapeutic approaches such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, schema therapy, or compassion-focused therapy help individuals identify distorted self-beliefs, challenge negative self-talk, and cultivate self-compassion. Supportive relationships also play a corrective role by providing consistent affirmation and respect, helping to reframe the internal narrative from deficiency to inherent worth. Other considerations: the struggle to trust one's own needs. The ability to recognize and validate one's own needs and instincts is a cornerstone of healthy self-development. When children consistently experience invalidation during formative years, particularly from the mother, who is often the primary caregiver. The result can be a lifelong struggle with self-doubt, self-silencing, depression, poor decision-making and impulse control, and difficulty trusting one's internal compass. From the earliest stages of life, children rely on caregivers to mirror their emotions, affirm their experiences, and are emotionally responsive to their needs. This process provides the foundation for secure attachment and the internalization of a stable, healthy, and trustworthy sense of self. When a mother dismisses, demeans, criticizes, or disregards her child's feelings, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the child learns a damaging lesson: my feelings are not real, my needs are not valid, and my instincts cannot be trusted. Because mothers are often the central figures in early nurturing, their invalidation carries unique emotional weight for adult survivors of maternal neglect. The mother-child bond is typically a child's first relational template, shaping expectations of how others will respond to vulnerability. When that bond is characterized by neglect, criticism, or emotional unavailability, children may be hyper-triggered about many things, but will usually keep his feelings to himself, until he meets someone whom he truly does love and feels a genuine desire to begin changing his unhealthy behaviors. The child learns to mistrust or ignore his own emotional experiences, believing his inner world, life experiences, and feelings are wrong, exaggerated, or unimportant. My needs don't matter. When requests for comfort or recognition are met with criticism or dismissal, the child concludes that their needs are inconvenient or burdensome. Love is conditional. I care about her, but maybe she won't like me. What if she leaves me? The child may internalize the belief that affection or acceptance must be earned through compliance, achievement, or silence, rather than given freely. I cannot trust myself. Repeated invalidation erodes confidence in instincts, leading to second-guessing and self-doubt well into adulthood. To be safe, I must suppress myself. Children often learn that expressing authentic feelings risks rejection, anger, or shame, so they adapt by silencing themselves. Who I am is not acceptable. Over time, invalidation becomes internalized as a core belief of unworthiness, shaping identity and self-esteem. Basically, something is wrong with me. Many children shift into people-pleasing or caretaker roles, believing that prioritizing others is the only way to maintain the connections to others. Challenges with setting boundaries. The experience of early abuse, whether physical, emotional, or sexual, often disrupts a child's capacity to develop a stable sense of self. One of the most enduring consequences is difficulty establishing and maintaining clear personal boundaries in adulthood. Boundaries serve as essential markers of individuality, defining where one person's responsibilities, emotions, and needs end and another's begin. In healthy developmental environments, children learn that their limits are respected and that asserting needs does not jeopardize attachment. In abusive contexts, however, boundaries are frequently ignored, violated, or punished. Survivors often adapt by suppressing their own needs, hyper-attuning to others, or equating compliance with safety. In adulthood, these adaptations may manifest in several ways. This behavior is quite unhealthy, so that is why support with someone they trust is extremely beneficial. Over-accommodation, a persistent pattern of saying yes when one wishes to say no, often resulting in emotional fatigue and resentment. Caregiver and compassion overload 101. Enmeshment and hyper-responsibility, difficulty differentiating one's own feelings from those of others, results in an excessive sense of responsibility for others' well-being. You're losing sleep over someone who terrorized your soul. Fear of rejection or abandonment, avoidance of boundary setting due to the belief that asserting limits will lead to conflict, withdrawal, or loss of relationships. Distrust of self-perception, struggles with validating one's own needs and instincts, rooted in the invalidation experience during formative years, especially when the parent was the mother. While these challenges may compromise relational health, they must be understood as adaptive survival strategies. For many survivors, compliance and blurred boundaries once minimize the risk of further harm. However, These same strategies in adulthood can perpetuate cycles of exploitation, erode self-esteem, and hinder the development of reciprocal, respectful connections. Therapeutic interventions are central to recovery. Trauma-informed therapy, somatic approaches, and structured boundary training can assist survivors in identifying needs, practicing assertive communication, and cultivating tolerance for the discomfort that may accompany change. As I always tell my adult students, to progress, you must address. Additionally, safe, supportive relationships provide corrective experiences, modeling respect for personal limits and reinforcing the legitimacy of self-protection over time. Boundary difficulties among adult survivors of early abuse is not uncommon, but few people are actually forming the link between the two. That is why I created this channel, to help bring awareness regarding the long-term imprint of environments where individuality was disregarded. Recognizing these patterns within a trauma-informed framework allows for compassionate understanding and the development of skills that foster autonomy, resilience, and healthier relational dynamics. Ultimately, adults who were heavily criticized as children struggle with low self-esteem not because of inherent weakness, but because their earliest mirrors reflected distortion rather than acceptance. With awareness and support, it is possible to reconstruct a more balanced and compassionate self-view, allowing individuals to thrive beyond the limits imposed by the impact of early maternal invalidation and emotional deprivation. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, and sharing. Keep working on yourself. For more information about my products and services, contact Jody Givhan, M.Ed, CEO of One Wind Media, onewind@gmx.com.